Folks, I hope you are all doing very, very, very well. It's your boy G11 of the Homie Talk podcast back at it again. And, it's been a lot going on in the world lately. A lot. I know you probably clicked on this because of the title that I put, right? About affirmative action ruling by SCOTUS. Now, I will say this: the Supreme Court has been extremely busy as of late, making a lot of different decisions on things. Now, here's my take. I think some of these decisions are 100% fair. I think they are 100%. The Supreme Court right now, with a lot of the ways they're making decisions, they're saying, okay, y'all want equality? Y'all want color blindness? Well, here we go. Much like with what they did with their decision on abortion, right? When they initially gave their opinion and then they made their ruling. A lot of people are in their feelings about it instead of actually thinking about the concept of it, right? So I got a short article here I want to take a look at. Before we actually get to a video, I do have a video with a student giving their opinion on what happened. This article is from NBC, but I highly recommend you guys, when you're doing your research, look at several different sources, right? But I'm just pulling this up. This is just a quick search just to kind of showcase what is actually going on, right? So the Supreme Court strikes down college affirmative action programs. Now, what's affirmative action, G11? Well, I'm glad you asked. So check this out. Affirmative action was essentially established during a time where, you had a lot of discrimination going on. And the idea was that you give the race that's being discriminated against a leg up, if you will, to try to compete on the same level. Or actually not even compete. That's not the proper word. To be afforded the same opportunity as students of other races, right? So essentially this mandated higher learning institutions to have a certain quota or a certain percentage of demographic of their students be black, or whatever the case, insert whatever race was affected by it, right? Now here's my thing with that, right? When you do something or enact something like that, one, it is a discriminatory law in and of itself. 100%. So it's kind of hypocritical. You're like, well, we don't want to discriminate, but you're discriminating. Because yes, you're giving black people a leg up, right? But at the same time, you're saying the other races, you're not as important. Black people, y'all take the front of the line. Now in it though, the funny thing is, even though this was essentially designed to help black individuals get into college or whatever college, I think it had a backfiring effect. Let me explain. You get individuals who get accepted to these higher learning institutions under affirmative action, and the issue is they're not able to compete. They did not put the work in on the front end to make it. They didn't essentially prove themselves based on their merits, right? They get into these higher learning programs, they get in there, and they realize, oh shit, this is actually hard. And I'm not saying this is for every case, because I know somebody out there in the audience is saying, but G11, I know somebody who was admitted into a school under this program, and they did very, very, very well for themselves. Awesome. I think that's dope. If an individual took advantage of a program and did well. Those are not the people I'm talking about. Right? I think you have a majority of folks who didn't succeed, to be honest, because again, they didn't put in the work. They didn't have the talent or the skill or the dedication to do what was needed to stay in these programs, okay? Those are the folks I'm talking about. Let's get back stuck into the article, though. Give me a second. All right. Supreme Court strikes down college affirmative action programs. The ruling is the culmination of decades of effort to end the consideration of race in admissions. Which to me, like just reading that out loud, that sounds fine. Okay. Your race should not be a factor when being considered for admission into a school or say a position at a job, right? You want to be accepted based on what you bring to the table, like your skill set. That's just my opinion. Washington. The Supreme Court on Thursday struck down affirmative action programs at the University of North Carolina and Harvard in a major victory for conservative activists, ending the systematic consideration of race in the admissions process. The court ruled that both programs violate the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution and are therefore unlawful. This is exactly what I was saying, right? You have a law that specifically was designed to give a leg up to a specific race. I don't think we have any other law that exists like that currently. But again, you see this backfiring. The court had ruled that both programs, blah, 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 we covered that. The vote was 6-3 in the UNC case and 6-2 in the Harvard case, in which liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was recused. Okay. Recused means they stepped off of the case essentially, or they stepped back because maybe they had some personal considerations involved or some type of tie or something like that. So the judge can recuse himself from it. The decision was hailed by prominent conservatives who say the Constitution should be colorblind. I agree. Right? That's what everybody wants. Okay? That's what all these different groups are advocating for, equality. Well, this is what it looks like. Okay? With former President Donald Trump calling it a great day for America. Liberals, however, condemned the ruling, saying affirmative action is a key tool for remedying historic race discrimination. Now, come on now. We can't have it both ways, okay? We can't have it both ways, guys. You can't want equality and then also ask for a leg up. Now, come on. That's not how this shit works, okay? Come on. But that's exactly what they're asking for. They want a leg up in this situation. Shaking my head. Let's get back to it. All right. It wasn't perfect, but there's no doubt that it helped offer new ladders of opportunity for those who, throughout our history, have too often been denied a chance to show how fast they can climb, said Michelle Obama, the first black first lady. Man, that could have been written a lot better. Now, again, that goes back to what I said. Yes, certainly it helped a lot of people out, right? People who actually took advantage of the program and did what they need to do. But again, man, anecdotally, this is just my opinion. It's my anecdotal thing. I don't see a lot of people succeeding under this, under the former law. Okay. Now we can go and look at the data. If someone has something different to what I'm saying, let me know. Seriously, I am happy to look at the data and see what's going on, but I just don't see it. President Joe Biden called the decision a severe disappointment. Of course you would. Of course he would call it a disappointment. Adding that his administration will provide guidance about how colleges could maintain diversity without violating the ruling. The court effectively overturned the 2003 ruling, Grutter versus Bollinger, in which it said race could be considered as a factor in the admissions process because universities had a compelling interest in maintaining diverse campuses. Yeah, but so here's the problem. You're literally trying to maintain a diverse campus just for diversity's sake. That can't be the sole purpose for it. Okay. That just can't be. It defeats the actual purpose of higher learning, and then you have people there that just don't need to be there or aren't ready to be there or are not equipped to be there, okay? And that's in any race. In doing so, the court scrapped decades of precedent, including a ruling dating to 1978 that upheld a limited consideration of race in university admissions to combat historic discrimination against black people and other minority groups. In the majority opinion, Chief Justice John Roberts did not explicitly say the former precedents were overruled, but in a concurring opinion, conservative Justice Clarence Thomas, only the second black justice to be appointed to the court, said that the Grutter case was, for all intents and purposes, overruled. Okay. Roberts wrote that both programs lacked sufficiently focused and measurable objectives warranting the use of race. That sounds like a fair statement to me. Unavoidably employ race in a negative manner, involve racial stereotyping, and lack meaningful end points. Very well said. Again, that's the data that I'm talking about. It doesn't really support anything other than diversity for diversity's sake. Okay? There's a difference. And again, it is racial stereotyping. The ruling exposed stark divisions among the justices who sit on a court that is more diverse than it's ever been. Jackson, the first black woman to serve on the court, wrote in a dissenting opinion that the ruling was truly a tragedy for us all. How? How was it a tragedy? Explain. Because this doesn't sound like a tragedy to me. This sounds like this is what everybody wanted. This is truly equality and color blindness. Okay? In 2023, I think everyone has equal opportunity at this point. Everyone is on equal footing. Now, what you do with that opportunity is totally up to you. You as an individual have to put in the work necessary to get to where you need to go. There's no way around it. There's no shortcuts, right? For example, this social media deal, right? I've been on YouTube for a little over a year. However, I have not been consistent enough, and I recognize this myself. I haven't been consistent enough or as focused in on the craft as needed to make sure that this thing continues growing and prospering the way it needs to. But you'll see the pattern with those who are successful on the platform, with Twitch, with YouTube, with whatever. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it. This shit is not easy, okay? You have to put in the work, plain and simple. Plain and simple. So to say this is a tragedy, how? We're not in the 1940s, 50s, 60s anymore. This is 2023. Liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor, the first Hispanic justice, wrote that the court stands in the way and rolls back decades of precedent and momentous progress. How was the court? My question for Justice Sotomayor would be how is it rolling back precedent and progress? They are giving the country what it wants. Sotomayor, in a sign of her displeasure, read a lengthy summary of her dissenting opinion in the courtroom. Thomas, a long-term critic of affirmative action, wrote his own 58-page opinion. Whew! Judge Thomas had a lot to say. You know, Judge Thomas is, I think, is he the one that's controversial? I'm not sure if it's him or not. But, boy, did he have a lot to say. Hang on. We're not going to read the 58-page opinion, though. You guys can go on the Supreme Court website and check it out yourselves. He called the programs in question rudderless, race-based preference designed to ensure particular racial mix in the entering classes. Both policies fly in the face of our colorblind constitution and our nation's equality ideal, he added. Jackson stared straight ahead while Thomas read his opinion from the bench. The ruling is another example in which the court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, has delivered on the long-held goals of conservative legal activists. It follows the seismic ruling last year that overturned Roe v. Wade, the landmark 1973 decision that guaranteed a right to abortion. So here's the thing, and I mentioned it in the beginning of the stream. The Roe v. Wade thing, all it did was it granted federal protections for it. You know, so you can go anywhere and get it. With their ruling, they just said, hey, we are not federally going to regulate this because we believe the government should not be involved in that decision-making progress. We will leave it to you, the states, to decide how y'all want to proceed and, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess regulate abortion. So, yes, now you have to consider your state that you're in, for the ladies out there, all 0.01 who watch my channel. Yes, you do need to consider now, like, oh shit, if I get pregnant and I don't want the baby, will I be able to actually, do whatever? Regardless of the moral argument, right? That's a whole separate thing. But yes, now there's an actual consequence of pregnancy. You gotta have that baby in a lot of states now. So, that's all they did with that. They removed the federal piece to that. Okay. But a lot of people took that out of context and look at it in a different way. The court's decision is a major blow to the most selective universities, which say some consideration of race is vital in ensuring they have diverse student bodies. There's that diversity again. The small number of schools that have extremely competitive admission programs are the most affected. that predicted that rulings against the colleges will lead to a significant drop in the enrollment of minority students and require admissions officers to experiment with new race neutral plans, which is how it should have been in the beginning anyway. See, even just reading that out loud, it was a targeted it was a targeted racial plan that they were doing all this time. I'd say that's pretty unfair to the good white and Asian people that are trying to go to school, that actually are applying themselves and doing what they need to do. The vast majority of colleges accept almost all applicants and will not be as affected. There you go. Among the dozens of institutions that take race into account are Yale University, Brown University, Columbia University, University of Pennsylvania, University of Chicago, and Dartmouth. Roberts left open the possibility of colleges considering the discussion of race in an individual student's application, citing the example of someone who has personally encountered racial discrimination. The student must be treated based on his or her experience as an individual, not on the basis of race, he added. And I agree with that. He also noted that the ruling does not address considering race in military academies. Ooh, it's about to get real. The Biden administration had warned that a ruling curbing affirmative action would detrimentally affect the U.S. military, which depends on a well-qualified and diverse officer corps, educated at institutions like the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, as well as civilian universities. I don't think it will, to be honest. Listen, America is already a melting pot, okay? You know, when you look at the demographics, I think at this point Caucasians are a minority of the country, okay? You know, I don't think we will regress backwards. Now, however, if you do see a drop, well, that tells you something. That means we have less qualified individuals coming from these other racial groups, right? And they have to do what they need to do to get qualified. We can't move the goalposts on certain things, okay? Let's see. The ruling is likely to have repercussions far beyond higher education, including K through 12. Okay. They're talking about it's going to affect the lower schools now. And it puts increased pressure on colleges to come up with workable race neutral programs, blah, blah, blah. You guys get the idea. They're all talking about the doom and gloom of it all. Which there is no doom and gloom. This is what everybody wanted to begin with. Now, I do have a short YouTube video. It's about 3 minutes long. It's on ABC News. You have an actual student talking about how she feels about the ruling. Okay, so I want you guys to really pay attention to the language that she's using. Listen to the argument, and then let's discuss what's going on here. Okay, without further ado, let's get stuck into it. All right, here we go. Oh, also give me a second. I'll stop our music there just for a wee bit so we can focus in.
Bumio Masori, pro-affirmative action student at both Duke and at UNC Chapel Hill, and I'm curious what your reaction is. I know that
you already know. I know y'all already probably forming opinions. You know, they got a black woman to talk about this. Who else better to talk about this decision than a black woman? Let's see.
You were hoping this would go the other way. What do you make of what you've learned in their decision so far, that they say can't simply be sort of a check mark based on identity, but must be part of a student's narrative, what they present to the school as part of their biography?
Well, I would say that I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. When we talk about holistic admissions, to say that you can include a student's identity, the student, the person behind the papers and the grades and the test scores, that you're not allowed to include race, which is such an encompassing part of at least my identity as an...
What the hell? Do colleges actually consider student identity? I know certain applications you can write an essay explaining like hardship and things like that, right? But do they really care about your identity? I think the things they really care about, at least, when I was younger and in high school, right? One of the things that was really harped on was, one, having a high GPA, right? For certain prestigious colleges, right? They look at your GPA, they look at your SAT scores, they look at community involvement in some cases, right? What you've done for your neighborhood, are you volunteering? And hardships are considered too. Like if you come from a rough background per se, and you're doing stuff to turn it around. I think that's what I would consider a part of someone's identity, not necessarily the race in terms of this applications process. I think all those other things, we're talking about school here, are legitimate considerations. Why is race a part of the identity? That's weird.
An underrepresented minority, it it makes me feel upset. We
Hold on. Did she say she's an underrepresented minority? Hmm. Let's go back.
underrepresented minority, such an encompassing part of at least my identity as an underrepresented minority, it it makes me feel upset. We know what happens when affirmative action goes away from universities.
Here we go with these damn feelings. It makes me feel upset. Okay. Not looking at the actual factual basis of it. Okay. Let's see what she says is going to happen.
We can look at California, we can look at Michigan, who has already banned it, and see how their state flagships lack a astounding number of Black and Latino students.
Okay. Here's my problem with her argument, though. California, Michigan, we got to figure out why the enrollment of these types of students has decreased, right? Because you take away a law that mandates you have to have this amount of Black, Latino, whatever in your school, right? So now that that's taken away, you have to look at, okay, why are they not being enrolled as high as they are? So I mean, I think there needs to be a study done, right, where they look at the applications and then you look at the reasons for non-acceptance, right? Maybe it's the GPA. Maybe they didn't score high enough. It could be a myriad of reasons, but we are now taking race out of the equation in those cases, right? So we have to look at the actual underlying reason as to why. But I don't think she's going to do that. Let's continue.
The one thing that really is making me sad, I'll just say today, is that my identity has to be my race. The struggles that I've gone through, the trauma I've gone through as an African American woman in the United States. If I were applying to college today, I would have to write about those traumas in my Common App essay. I would have to write about those traumas and those very hard experiences for admissions officers to accept the overwhelming truth that we all know, which is that it is hard to be a Black person in America.
I disagree a little bit. I disagree. Personally, again, this is just my anecdotal experience, right? I don't agree with her. I don't think it's hard to be Black in America in 2023. Again, we're not in the 1940s, 1960s anymore. People aren't going out and getting lynched. It's not, I don't think there's a systematic oppression going on here. I think we as a people are in our own way. And it's not just Blacks, it's whomever. Okay? I don't think we're being oppressed at this point. If anything, we had a whole organization that existed for the betterment of Black people. What? BLM. We had all that stuff, right? Now, we won't talk about BLM right now because they're going bankrupt allegedly. But there is a continuous highlight on Black people being mistreated or what have you. And in most of those cases, we're doing it to ourselves. Well, I won't say in most cases. I'll say in the cases that were highlighted, we are doing it to ourselves. And anecdotally, I can say we are doing it to ourselves. So I don't agree with that argument. To me, it is not hard. My life has been pretty straightforward. I had a few bumps in the road, with like family related things and just poor decisions that I personally have made. But there's nothing in place or nothing specifically that's happened to me where I have been limited as a result of just being black, if that makes sense. Okay. I just don't agree with her there.
And I don't think that's fair.
And Bumi, that's the point John Carl was making moments ago, that students might now be forced to write about their experiences, or about particular experiences that perhaps they might not have included in their essays, because they're not allowed now moving forward to put on that piece of paper a key part of their identity. That's what you're saying here?
Yeah, I'm saying that, like,
Here's the problem. Okay. You can still write about hardships. So why does it have to be about being black? I guarantee you most of the people who's had hardships that are black or people of color, their hardships come from their own community. It is not white people that are putting you down. It's coming from your own community. Let's really sit back and think about it. Let's have a real discussion. The hardship comes from your own people. I have had some of the most egregious treatment and comments said to me by my own people. All I'm trying to say is, like, some of the worst things that have happened to me in my life have been from my own people. Not to say there aren't, like, rude people in other races, but good people are good and bad people are bad. We can't if you're gonna write about hardship, let's tell the whole story, okay? Let's not just make it seem like it's white people that are just in your way or whatever. I don't know how to explain that piece, but it's just you guys get what I'm trying to say, hopefully. Let's see what else she has to say.
for example, when I was applying to college last year, I had put down that I'm African American. I had put down that I come from a Nigerian family, and being from the area that.
Wait a minute. She's a pretender. She's Nigerian. Come on, man. Come on. I'm not to say she's not black, right? She is black. But, however, I think there is a difference between how foreign African families conduct themselves versus, black families who are here, okay? Just, again, anecdotally, from what I've seen, typically, African migrant families from the motherland press their children to work very, very hard, and they are usually pretty successful in what it is that they do. Now, she might have had some hardship from back in her country, or however she was raised, whatever. How the case is, though, I think in her situation, she did not experience quite the same stuff that normal African Americans experience, okay? I think she had a very supportive family. Let's just get that straight. Let's continue. We done poked holes in her argument, y'all.
That I was. Everyone who is involved in college admissions knows that I was, by being black, more likely to experience things such as under-resourced schools, which I went to growing up, more likely to have teachers that didn't look like me, which was the case in my school. I did not have a black teacher. And so
that is a outdated argument. If you want to see more representation, then how do we go about doing that? Well, we go through and we put in the work to get these professions where we want to see more of ourselves. If we want to see more black teachers, then fucking go to school for it. Become a teacher and be black and get in the position where you can have that influence that kids want to see. I keep hearing that same argument over and over and over. We need more representation. We need more representation. We need more representation. Well, fucking go out and do it, man. I'm just tired of hearing that argument. That's literally, I'm only in my 30s, but I've heard that so much up to this point, and it doesn't change. If you want more representation, then go out and be the change that you want to see. Let's make it happen. Then go get the certification, get your degree, become a teacher, and inspire other kids to do the same. Like I wasn't dramatically impacted because I didn't have black teachers in high school or college. Like, no, I was focused on the content of school. Okay. I was worried about my friends, hanging out, talking shit, video games, graduating, all that type of stuff, sports, wrestling. Like my focus in high school or even really in college. Now, some of y'all, when y'all get to college, you get this whole liberal mindset, whatever, whatever. But I was not sitting there thinking, oh, I don't have a black teacher. My learning is gonna suck. No, that's not the time frame, the timeline that we're in right now. Okay, we're past that. Did that timeline suck? Where you had segregated schools and we didn't have the same education, or in some cases, I don't know. Maybe some people did get lesser education because they didn't have black teachers. I don't know. That's not the case anymore, in my opinion. That is not the overwhelming case. Okay, so I fucking hate this argument that people continue to make, like representation. I can't stand it. Okay, I'm done. Let me let it go.
I think that when it comes to kids who are applying in the next cycle, it is going to be hard to see themselves as someone outside of their race. I feel like that's what allowed affirmative action by it being limited in.
What the fuck is she talking about? Can somebody make that make sense? Wait. Okay, so she started off the argument by saying race is a core part of her identity, right? The law removed race out of the equation. Now she's saying people are only going to see their. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ Almighty. Can someone make that make sense for me? Someone make it make sense, because it's not making sense for me. I don't know. Let's just let it play out.
In the past, to just being one factor considered amongst a host of others in a holistic process. It was never going to be the deciding factor after Bakke versus UC Davis, I believe, though many people still believe that it is. And I think that now that students are forced to talk about racial discrimination and their experiences with it, their obstacles with it in their college essays, they're now being known by their race first and by their academics and otherwise other experiences second.
Again, I just have to disagree with her argument totally. Like, you don't always have to provide a hardship essay, I'm assuming. I think you just have to provide, and it depends on the school or whatever. But it doesn't always have to be about race. You don't have to put that. And if you are writing an adversity essay, you just write about what actually happened to you. Why does it always, 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 when you look at these activists, you see these organizations, they always make it a problem of race for some reason, and I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't agree with it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. It always becomes a problem of race.
Because they have to put that in the forefront to prove their experiences through racism in the United States.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here.
And that's the video, folks. Again, I think the Supreme Court decision was on par with what everyone is looking for in 2023. We are preaching equality, and on the same hand, we're preaching, but wait, I want equality just for me. I still want the upper hand when dealing with certain situations. It just doesn't work like that, okay? Let me know what you guys think about the situation. I'll see you guys again soon for the next stream. Y'all be safe. Have a happy 4th of July weekend. Remember why we celebrate it, right? America's independence from the monarchy. Very important to understand history. But y'all have a good time. Hopefully I didn't take up too much of it. Y'all be safe. We'll see y'all in the next one. Until then, peace.